Welcome back to Let's Talk Careers. My name is Miss V, and I am so excited to bring another incredible guest. Today, we are meeting with Kendria Johnson, who
Mhm.
is a teacher, a mentor, an author, and a coach. Welcome, Kendria.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maria, for having me.
Super, super excited. I mean, I met
Yes.
you in person not too long ago,
Yes. Yes.
and I was listening to you and thought, this is an incredible person, not only as an educator, not only how
Mhm.
you were speaking to the educators in the room, but also the energy that you brought to the room. And I think whenever I'm helping young people,
Yeah.
the one thing that I'd like to leave them with is an understanding that the world of work is an exciting place. And
Yeah.
I know we talk a lot about if you love what you do, it's not going to be work, but we know that you
Hmm.
can love what you do, but it can feel really heavy. That energy that you
Hmm.
brought is something that I want young people to be more exposed to. So I'm
Okay.
excited to bring you here. I definitely want to
Yes.
be talking about all the wonderful initiatives that you're part of and the work that you
Hmm.
do, but you didn't start this way. None of us
Oh
do. I think when we're
no.
young and teenagers, we're all trying to
Uh-huh.
explore and discover. And some of us do it really, really smoothly, and some of us kind of find that bumpy way through. How would you describe your adolescence and that career discovery process?
Well, my there's a scripture that actually says that your gifts make room for you, and so I remember my teachers always telling me that I was a good writer, and I didn't really play into it. I just was not. Then I had I know I was really good at writing things down to the point where my teachers thought I was, plagiarizing my work, and that used to offend me. And so because they would always accuse me of not all of them, not all of them, but some of my English teachers would accuse me of where did you get this from? I'm like, my brain. Then that made me kind of double down on it. So writing kind of jumped into my lap. Then when I was a little girl, before adolescence, I used to have Barbie dolls. I think everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. All the girls know I had a bunch of Barbie dolls, and I would line them up. And instead of playing school, I would play a business leader. I was a business leader. Don't know what I had no idea what that meant. But I would teach my business group, and they would always I would always have deadlines for them. And then my briefcase, I used to have a little bit suitcase and all that kind of stuff. So those kind of things were clues to my future self. So if I was talking to young people, I would say something like, pay attention to the clues that tell you the things that you're good at, whether you like them or not. Pay attention to those clues, because there's like nuggets that are being dropped into your lap, and that gives you some sense of direction as to where your life could take you. Again, I didn't like writing that much. I was just really good at it. And I was always getting compliments or either getting accused of being plagiarizing my stuff. So I was like, well, there must be something to that. So it found me. But the thing that I liked was math. I always liked math. I was not a geek, but I did like, putting things together and putting formula and figuring out formulas and things like that. But writing was like a back shelf thing. That was in the back of the back of my mind. So it was a journey to get to the point where I accepted that I was good at this writing thing, that I was a good at making poetry, and that I was good at, making things rhyme, and I would make poems for with lessons in them. I would rhyme, make the lessons rhyme. When I became a teacher, I started teaching at 25. So we're in year 22 now. And I was young and hip and cool. And then I started to write things down for the kids. And then that's when I realized that, and I married the two things. Okay, I've always been good at this. Now I have a career where I get to teach other people. Let's put those two together. And ta-da. Now I've authored two books, and I've been in countless magazines, Forbes magazine. I've been my work has been featured in about 6 magazines so far in just the last 3 years.
That's amazing. Were you
Hmm.
always a teacher, Kendria? Was that where it all began for you?
Yeah, I was a teacher, Maria, before I was a teacher. But I didn't necessarily like it at first. It was thrown at me, and I was like, oh, I was in high school. I was a student teacher. And as a student teacher, you don't have any control over what you're teaching. You're just in there to help. And I remember not being able to I hated it. I was 17, 18 years old. I hated it. And so when I left that job and graduated high school, I was like, I will never be a teacher. And I shook my hand to God and meant it. I meant it. But I was, yeah. How many of you know that when you make plans, God laughs at you? So I was like, I'll never be a teacher. And then I would find myself teaching, other people's kids, and making them sit down and like and writing little math problems on pieces of paper, saying, "Now go ahead and do that, and then give it back to me, and I'm going to check it for you." This is before I became an actual teacher. So I was already always a teacher. Now I've evolved into what I am now, which is like I'm a teacher of students, but I'm also a teacher of adults, trying to help people, get in touch with the balance in their life again. So yes, I have always been a teacher to answer that question.
So for a young person thinking, I don't know what I want to do,
Mhm.
is teaching something that you would nudge them towards? There's a real shortage of teachers
Yeah.
currently around the world, and it's becoming even more worrying whether young people will stay motivated and want to go into the teaching profession. Is that a profession that you think we need more young people? Or if not, how would you encourage? Because learning and the
Mhm.
platforms for learning are changing.
They are.
And as much as educators around the world would like to keep it as it is, it's evolving, it's
It is.
changing. What are some of your tips to either encourage or maybe not young people into education?
Well, if you're, in that phase where I was 17, 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there, your early 20s, you truly don't know what you like. You think you know what you like, but you really, really don't. So I would encourage anyone to try out careers. Try them on. You don't leave the store without trying on jeans. You don't leave the store without trying on shoes. Why is your career? It's not that big. It's something that you're going to spend 40 hours a week doing. You probably should try it out. So the young people that I've had, in my mentorship are people that I'm like, give it another year or two. And if you still don't like it, then maybe it's something else that you should be doing. But for the most part, people that come into teaching really have a passion for teaching. So I wouldn't say just jump into it, because it's not like a normal job. It's just not. It's not like any other job you've ever had, especially in the corporate arena, because you're actually depositing knowledge to small minds. And if you don't like it, if you don't like it and you don't like what you do, it does affect, other people. Whereas if I didn't like corporate, I could just leave the corporate job and it wouldn't affect anybody but me. But you're affecting other people. But I would say that, like I said earlier, pay attention to the things that you're good at and the things that you like, and see if you can make a career out of that. There's this wonderful book. I haven't read it in a long time. I keep saying I'm gonna get another copy of it, called "What Color Is My Parachute?" It's
Mm.
basically designed for young people to figure out what it is that you like to do, and build your life around that. And just so you know, grown-ups have dreams too. I am still evolving. I tell people all the time, when I grow up, I want to be a travel agent. When I grow up, I want, I still have, these different careers that I want to explore later on in my life. And I'm, 9 times 5 plus change. That doesn't mean that I am done just because I moved to another section of teaching. So be flexible with yourself. Don't put a lot of pressure. A lot of young people are putting a lot of pressure on themselves to either make money or get that job that they won't have for life. But no one is staying in those 30, 40-year careers anymore. People are not doing that go watch thing anymore. They're not doing that. So if you like teaching, if you think teaching is for you, try it. Give it at least 5 years, 5 good solid years, because it's going to be hard the first 2 or 3. And this is what I tell teachers: the first 2 or 3 years are going to be like a nightmare. You're going to look around like, why did I sign up for this? But then after that, you get into a smooth transition, and then you can really decide whether or not it's something that is for you. And for young people, I love talking to young people too, by the way. For young people that are trying to figure themselves out in college, what you major in is what you major in, but it probably will not have nothing to do with what you actually truly desire to do in your life. And make sure you are majoring in the things that you really want to do. I majored in business because, again, when I was 10 years old, I'm gonna be a business leader. I didn't even know what that meant. Business leader. What is that? That's not even a real title. I was 10. I didn't know any better. But when I got to be a grown up, I was like, this is what I want to be: a business consultant, a business person. But that wasn't the path that chose me. So pay attention to the things that are in your soul, the things that you dream about, the things that you would do for free if they didn't pay you. If they didn't pay you, would you still do it for free? I would. I would still volunteer to teach people.
So
And
that's a
that's my advice on
whole
that.
that's a whole different conversation. We can have a
Mhm.
just the whole conversation on that. But this
Mhm.
is about your journey, Kendria, and your
Yeah.
journey definitely is an inspiration to young people watching this right now. So tell us about the journey from teacher to mentor Did that happen naturally, or was there an upskill in education that you needed in order to do that?
Well, it did. It happened somewhat naturally, only because I was always a mentor teacher. My 6th year of teaching, they stuck me with someone who was brand new. So I was always that teacher. They would knock on my door and say, "I need to, can I talk to you?" Even if they weren't my mentee, they had a mentor next door, but the mentor at the next door wasn't approachable. They would still come to my door and say, "Can I talk to you?" So that came kind of naturally. I was always very approachable. So people would come to me and ask me a lot of questions, and I would tell them the truth. I would not sugarcoat anything for them. And I would tell them the absolute truth. Some people responded well, some people did not. But what I noticed was is I wasn't getting paid to mentor all these people. So I was like, you know what? Is there a way for me to monetize what I already do and do? And it seemed to be, kind of gravitating to me. And then of course, the pandemic happened, but right before the pandemic, because this was March 2020, when the pandemic, really it was about to shut down. I had just done an online course that was catered to new teachers, and it was called Six Steps to Successful Teaching is what it started out as. And right when that happened, boom, we were all at home. So then I started to peddle that. And then it was, people responded to that well, and people started to call me and say, "I'm having trouble with this, and this, and this, and this. And can you help me with this, and this?" Well, sure. Well, let's do a free consultation, and then we'll discuss some kind of pricing for that. And it evolved from there. So it evolved into this small, mentor coaching type situation. Then I've started to I wrote a book about my experience with burnout and all the things that I went through in my journey in teaching. And then on top of that, I have a workshop where I work with teachers, no more one-to-one, more one-to-many now. And then now I still coach on the side here and there, but for the most part, I'm kind of branching out to see if I want to help as many teachers as I possibly can know that they are not alone. You're not by yourself. Of course, the great resignation tells us that people are leaving the profession. But what about the people that are staying in it? I'm one of those people that has stayed in it. So I'm here for you if that's what you want to do, but you might need some help to get through that rough patch if that's what you want to stay, if
So
you want to stay.
it sounds like you were taking opportunities when opportunities were really whispering at the door. I don't even think it didn't even sound like a big knock. It just sounded like, hey, there's a whisper and you want to do that.
Yeah.
And you naturally told us how that book evolved and how you wrote your
Yeah.
book. Where did coaching come in? Because for a young person, mentoring and coaching, they kind of fall under a similar umbrella, but they're actually quite different in terms
Yeah.
of approaches. So where did coaching come in for you? And how did you know that you could be a mentor because you had the experience, you could resonate with your mentees, but then coaching is a completely different practice, especially as a mentor. Many people are so comfortable saying, "Hey, I did it this way, you can try it that way." But with coaching, it's very non-directive. So how did that
Yes.
play into your journey?
Well, as a mentor, I've mentored new teachers. So teachers who people have never done it before, only had a limited amount of experience. So it was a how-to. It was basically this is how you get the discipline you want. This is how you contact or you speak to the students when you want respect. This is how you do these things. Coaching came into play when I was struggling with my career. So, everybody thinks that, well, you've been doing this 15, 20 years, you should have it together. I don't. I do not have it together all the time. And in moving to another country, I needed help. I had to reach out to someone who had already been here and already done this, and they coached me through it. So I became that solution for someone else because teachers are notorious for, I got it. I'm gonna got it. I'm gonna smile through this and I got it. I got it. But they don't got it. They don't got it. I know that's bad English, but they don't. And I didn't have it. And so who do you reach out to? Because you're too experienced to be a mentee, and they don't give us mentors. They don't do that anymore. They don't do mentors and shadow programs for teachers like me who've been doing it forever, right? But let's say I moved from 8th grade to grade 5, and I was drowning. I'm like, I forgot how to deal with they're so little. How do I talk to them as opposed to what I do still? How do I talk to the 8th graders? So I used to have to knock on someone's door and have them come and help me. Okay, what do I say when this is happening? because she's crying every single day in my class. I'm not used to people crying every single day in my class, and those kinds of things. They don't have anybody I found in my personal experience. Again, this is not for the everyone else. This is not a general statement for everybody else. But what I find in my experience is that veteran teachers who are struggling don't have anyone to talk to. So as a person who listens, I can listen and say, okay, what about this? Try this. Give them these three scenarios to try out, and then come back and we'll talk about it next week. And that it makes all the difference for them.
I think what I really appreciate most about what you're just sharing with us is for a young person to understand that no matter how experienced you get in your profession, as it begins to evolve, you'll always find something new that you might need some support with as well. And I think that's very, very important. And for a young person to understand that learning is lifelong and it's not just the degree that you take at school. Learning can be in the shape of coaching. It can also be in the shape of mentoring. Let's narrow in on your top 3 career tips. Number 1, you say, find your passion. As a careers practitioner, I hear this from individuals all the time. Sometimes I think it's, I mean, we say it, but for each individual, it means something completely different.
Yeah.
So without using the kind of fairy tale version of find your passion, let's make it really raw and vulnerable, because finding your passion is sometimes a painful experience for a young person. And they very often, what I hear from them is, Miss V, how on earth am I supposed to find my passion? I am just taking test after test. I have so much homework to do. How do I find my passion? How did you find your passion, and what tip can you offer a young person?
I had 3 F's once upon a time when I wrote the first version of my book. The 3 F's were something that you feel very strongly about, and something that you failed at, and something that you completely F up. And I meant that. Yeah. So if something that you really feel strongly about, and something that I've really screwed up over the years, is, saying the wrong thing to people who weren't ready to hear it. I screwed up at that. I mean, I'm pretty sure anybody who knows me knows that I'm extremely, my passion bubble is at the top. So every time when I have a feeling, I feel it 100%. So sometimes in my past, I have said the wrong thing to people who weren't ready to hear that, and they didn't ask me for my opinion. So I messed those up, but I feel very strongly about what I feel. So I never knew I always used to walk away from it, because I'm like, okay, clearly I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm gonna stop talking. But that's not what God wanted me to do. So it's like, I felt a certain way about helping people, but you also have to want people have to be ready to be helped. And that is how my passion found me, as far as helping people and deciphering information to young people. I was the kind of child that wasn't really good at sitting and listening. I wasn't a good listener when I was a kid. I just, after 5 minutes, the teacher would teach a lesson. I'm like, I got it, miss. You ain't even got to talk. And I'm as an adult, I've started now, stop doing that. As a coach, I have really started to re-examine my way of listening, and I had to take courses on it. I have acquired my mentor. I have a mentor and a coach, because as a mentor and a coach, I still need to be coached sometime. And this is what we work on together. So I don't ask clients or people, potential clients or people that even buy my book, to do things that I haven't done. But if I were to speak to, a group of young people, and they're still having trouble finding their passion, I know the testing is annoying, but it's the thing that won't leave you alone. It's the thing that's chasing you. That when you push back the bureaucracy and all the paperwork and the red tape, and you push back all the things that you think about in your future, it's the thing that you can see yourself doing 10 years from now, 20 years from now, even if they didn't pay you, even if it wasn't the, 6-figure salary that you're dreaming about now. It's that thing that won't leave you alone. I have to be careful, because I don't know what that is for everybody. For you, it might be, rollerblading. It might be, figure skating. It might be reading, or it might be painting. I've met so many teachers with different kinds of gifts. But make sure that if you're going to make a career out of it, that is something that you can do full time, that you can do in your sleep. It's something that you have to be good at. I think my mentor and I talked about this once. Kendra, if you couldn't teach anymore, If someone told you you can never teach ever again, you had to keep your mouth closed, you had to stay in your house and never teach anywhere again, I would probably get arrested. Because I'd probably get arrested because I'm going to do this no matter what. I'd probably could stop it for about 6 months, but then I'd find myself in the mall telling people what to do. Okay, everybody sit down. I'm going to read y'all a book. I would still be arrested because it's in my soul. It's that thing that won't leave you alone. Instead of calling it passion, it's the thing that you can't get away from no matter what you do, especially if you're leaving school or leaving work and you can't get home, or you can't wait to get home to do it. I had a girl in my class who loved to read. Loved to read. Yeah, she would walk in the hallways with a book. I don't even love reading the way this baby loved reading. This baby loved reading. I saw my baby on a television program not too long ago as like the world's best speller. She won a spelling bee competition, like for the United States or Canada or something like that. And I was like, that's my baby. I remember her. Her mother was a teacher too, but I remember her. That's my baby. She used to have books in her hand. We used to have to pry the book out of her hand to teach her math. So that's that thing that she couldn't get away from. Now, I don't know what she's going to be. She's 18, 19 years old. So I don't know exactly what she's going to be when she's done with her education. However, I know that that baby loved reading. Her passion was reading. She loved it. So I hope that answers your question. If not, you can always call me later.
Let's talk about failure. In your top
Oh,
three, you say, don't be afraid to fail.
mhm.
And failure is a noun, but not a person. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you bring this up, because for a young person on that journey towards making a career decision, failure at school is not an option. So, how does a young person not be afraid to fail, knowing that it's part of the journey towards success?
It's exactly what you just said, Maria. It's just reframing it and reshaping it. We as adults have done that to the children. We've done that. The parents have done that, and we as teachers have done that because the educational system that I was a part of said that if you have a bad grade, you failed, which is not true. Failure is not a person. It's just not. You're not a failure because you have a 50 on a test. That's just not true. But we've been conditioned to believe that. So now I consider failure to be just a lesson. Sometimes it's just going in the wrong direction. It's sometimes life telling you, okay, that's you didn't do too good on that, so let's figure out another way to do it. And if we were honest with ourselves, you don't learn anything by getting it right the first time. Come on. I would be so cocky and arrogant if I just got it all right the first time. No one does that. We don't That's not the real life and real world we live in. So if you see it as, oh man, okay, well, I didn't get that right, and you don't take it personally, if you don't take it to heart and you don't take it personally and you just dust yourself off and figure out what you can learn from that quote unquote failure, then it doesn't matter to you. It won't bother you. How many inventors, how many, billionaires, how many, tech people, young people love technology, right? Have, tried something, prototyped something, wrote something, created something that didn't work the first time. You just learn from it. You just figure out what you got wrong on that one. Try it again, try it again, try it again, try it again. They don't consider those things failures. They consider those things to be learning experiences and learning opportunities. If you reshape your mind now, and what I see with young people is really sad, and I wrote about it in the book, is that parents, we need to stop putting so much pressure on these babies and teachers and superintendents and all these standardized tests. We put all this pressure on them when you know and I know that in the real world, if you fail a test, go take it again. Just go take it again. The bar, what is it, MCAT, to be a doctor.
Mhm.
My driver's test when I was 20 years old, my driver's test, I failed it a couple times. That's not the real world though. But we teach our kids that when you don't get good SAT scores, you don't get, the end of the year test. If you fail, is your life is over. We need to stop practicing those things and stop saying those things to our kids, because you're first off, you're setting them up to be, depressed, because it will happen. I just had this conversation with a fifth grader 2 days ago. It will happen. I said, right about the time when you fail, Miss, I have never failed at anything. Okay. You've never gotten an F. No, I've never gotten an F. I said, you know what? Pretend like you did and write about it. Like, she's so cocky. I've never gotten an F. Wait till she gets one. Because it's going to happen. Something's going to happen that she's not good at. Something will happen in her life. She's going to come into something that she's not that great at. And it's going to tear her up from the inside out, because her mother is putting a lot of pressure on her to be perfect, straight A's all the time. But what happens if you don't?
Mm.
It doesn't. Do you love your child less? I don't. So it's like, that's not really the reality that we live in. I didn't get a 4.0 when I graduated college both times, neither. And when I failed a class, I took it again. Or if I failed something and I'd ask if the professor would allow me to take it again, took it again until I got it right. So I like that philosophy and I live by it now. And I don't get those butterflies in my stomach when something doesn't work out the way I did, well, that I want it to. Because failure is not me. I am not the failure. Something didn't work out. Okay, no biggie.
Were you always this confident?
You're the third person this week to call me that.
No, but I'm asking you this because when I
Ah,
meet with young people, Kendria, they look
yeah,
up to role models like you and they
yeah,
think, I want that. I want to be just like that. But what they don't see is the journey to confidence. And confidence, in my perspective, is it's a journey. You're confident and you're building on it. And sometimes what we show the world is not what the journey looks like on the inside. But
no,
for a young person watching a conversation like this, I mean, I'm mesmerized by the way that you speak and
yeah.
the tips that you're providing and your own journey. But I know that you don't just turn out this way, it's a process. So, what were the strategies that you used to be able to feel, or if you don't feel, to come across this confident?
Oh my gosh, so many things. Okay, so I wasn't a confident teenager, of course. I had some major issues, and I didn't come from the greatest home ever. I had some very turbulent times in my home, which I write about in my first book, which is right there. That's my first book. This is the second one. And so I talk about that, and I talk about how I knew for a fact what kind of adult I wanted to be because I would watch it. Like you said, I'd watch other people. I'm like, wow, I want to be like that. I wonder what she had to. But if I were talking to young people, and I hope someone can hear this, even if someone's my age, doesn't matter, adults, young people, children alike, that I learned that whatever I have done wrong, that which does not kill me has made me stronger. And I pump my chest up higher because I survived it.
It's been such a pleasure. It's not every day that I get to have teachers on the spotlight. I think
Mm,
sometimes teachers feel like, well, who would want to hear about being a teacher? And what I appreciate about meeting you and hearing you today is that interest, that enthusiasm, that energy, that drive is
mhm.
what we want to remember from our teachers. So thank you for being so enthusiastic when you're talking about your profession. I think
Thank
especially
you.
through the pandemic, we've seen teachers feeling very overwhelmed and very
Mhm.
exhausted, quite frankly, on all the changes and the different platforms that they need to kind of show up for. But to see you with this energy, I think young people watching this will be like, wow, let's look a little more into what it takes to be a teacher. Thank you,
Mhm.
Kendria. Thank you for being here.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to everyone. We spoke with Kendria Johnson, who is a teacher, a mentor, an author, and a coach. And I hope that after this interview, if you are thinking about being a teacher, that you realize that the impact is an amazing impact on young people. But you definitely want to have that sugar and spice that Kendria was talking about today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you at our next Let's Talk Careers with Miss V.